And welcome to Talk of the Game. And it's the match review that's literally just finished. Astra won, West Ham United won in the playoff qualifying round of the Europa League. As we take it back to the London Stadium, 90 minutes away from the group stages. Gonzo, when the team lineup came out, what were you thinking? Pleased to see Antonio forward?
Very, very pleased. It's the decision everybody was waiting for. Yeah, absolutely delighted. Pleased to see Oxford in as well. Nice to see Ogbonna get a run out, and just something else. It's pointless changing two positions, which is what was happening before. So we were changing the right back, and we had a right back at left back. At least this way, we had a right back, and then we just had to deal with a left back, and Reece Burke did all right, to be fair.
Charlie, what was your initial reaction when you saw the starting team?
Yeah, it was fine. My worry was Reece Burke at left back. I thought it wouldn't be amazing, but he was serviceable. He was fine, and I was happy to see two up top. I wasn't sure which one of Valencia and Cleary would drop deeper, but I was happy to see them both up top together and see what we can do when we've not got complete isolation up front like we have done for the last couple of games.
Well, Gonzo's smiling there. I think I know why he's smiling. But we'll speak about individual performances after we've gone through the match. But I've got a funny feeling I know what he's wanting to say. It was quite a scrappy game overall, though. It was a game of crosses and corners, really. Everything seemed to come from crosses and corners. There wasn't much technical flair on show. I don't think that it was very obvious which one was a Premier League side, unfortunately. I don't think we controlled the game enough. But Antonio's header got cleared off the line. Cleary went close with his header as well. And then we got our penalty just before half-time, Gonzo. What was the defender doing?
Playing silly buggers, really. He was. It was a weird one. It was a totally avoidable handball, of course. But just to your prior point, where you said it was a sketchy match to tell which team was a Premier League and which team wasn't, I had a very, very good view of the game, as it were. So, and obviously, there may well be some people who perhaps didn't watch the game through official channels. And if you didn't do, and you were watching a grainy stream on your laptop or something, you might not have seen quite how bad that pitch was. That's got to be the worst football pitch I've seen in a long time. I mean, it was like a comprehensive school rugby pitch. It was awful. I don't think even your fine silky skills, Gio, I doubt you'd have been able to pass very well on that pitch, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think that was a big leveler today. But yeah, it was they could have avoided that penalty, but Noble, Mr. Reliable, did what he always does.
Charlie, it kind of backfired for them. Moments before the pen, their striker Tashida went through between Oxford and a other player that escapes me right now. I think it was Byram, and he went down looking for the pen. The referee told him get up. Then do you think the defender was trying to do the same when he tried to make on he'd been pushed by Antonio, so he flapped his arm back, and unfortunately for him, it hit him on the arm?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we were talking about this last time we were in the Europa League. They will come at us and use any tactic possible, not because we're such an incredible team, but we are clearly a better side than them. So they are going to push, they are going to shove, they are sort of going to be a bit theatrical in order to sort of gain any advantage they possibly can. I honestly do not. Even if Antonio would have got his head on that ball, I don't know where he would have been. If he got it in the net, it would have been an incredible header. So I'm not entirely sure what his plan was with the hand, apart from a rush of blood, I guess, but I'm not complaining exactly.
I don't think he meant to handball. I think he meant to look like he'd been pushed by Antonio, so he just flung his arm in the air as if to exaggerate a fall, and unfortunately for him, the ball bounced off his arm. And because there was no contact, you kind of got to give the penalty. But as Gonzo said, Mr. Reliable slots it home, 1-0. Did we deserve that lead, Gonzo? Do you think we deserved it?
No, I mean, it was a pretty rubbish game, really, wasn't it? It wasn't high on entertainment, but it's got to be difficult. I've got to say, it's difficult to watch because the stadium's half empty. There's not really an atmosphere to speak of. Fantastic West Ham fans. You can hear them singing, 300 odd fans. You can hear, all the usual songs being sung. And you know what? Fair play to anybody who buys a ticket to Romania and goes out there to support the team. That's proper support. But it's difficult to watch. There's no atmosphere in the stadium, so actually it's difficult to play in. It's early on in the season. The team aren't fit. We're not fit. That's clear. The pitch is dodgy. We came away with no injuries, and no, all right, we didn't deserve to. A draw was probably the right result at the end of things. But there you go. We got an away goal. We got an away goal. That's good.
Wasn't much happening. Charlie, bits and pieces, scraps for both teams until our substitute 18-year-old, he's been with us since he's 8 years old, Marcus Browne, blasted away from the halfway line, skinned his man, left him on his arse on the halfway line. I think he needs to be a bit more selfish, Charlie. Do you think he needs to be? Why is he not taking that shot on?
I think if it was another situation when Antonio would have been further forward and then he took the shot, I would have been crying, why didn't you pass? Because it was a difficult opportunity for him. And I'm really glad that even at his age, with the rush of blood that he's obviously getting from skinning his man, flying through, everyone staring at him, I'm really glad that he actually took the time to look up, figure out what to do and pass the ball on. Because if he was to take... My biggest problem with Zarate back in the day was that he wouldn't pass the ball when it seemed like it was most obvious, and it would just frustrate me to no end. And so for him to do that when all the pressure was on him as an 18-year-old and a huge opportunity for him, I'm really glad. However, in that opportunity, his best option was to probably take on the goalkeeper and try and score. But as a personality trait almost, I'm happy that he at least took the time to look up and try and feed someone else in as opposed to just doing everything himself.
I'm not sure he looked up because Antonio was about 10 yards behind him. I don't think he could have seen exactly where Antonio was because the pass wasn't executed properly. It's not his fault. There was just too much on the pass and Antonio was stretched and he was quite wide. Gonzo, what do you make of that? Do you think Browne should be taking that on?
Listen, he saw Antonio, make no mistake about it. I think he wouldn't have passed. Antonio was just too tired to get there because he'd run so far. I don't blame him. I like what Charlie said for once, Charlie, to be for once, Charlie made a good point, mate. Yeah, I was pleased. It showed a bit of awareness, tactical awareness, playing with your head up. That was good. I understand what you're saying, but I'd imagine there was a bit of fear in the boy. I think people always say young players, they play without fear, but I think maybe he didn't take it on because he's thinking I can either shoot. I think he probably thought the pass was the more assured way to lead to a goal. So he probably did the sensible thing rather than the selfish thing. I don't blame him. I think that's fine, but we got punished a minute later, didn't we?
I'm not meaning to criticise him. I just think it's a bit of a shame that he just didn't take it on himself. I think he did all the work himself to get the chance. I just think it would have been good to see our young player confident enough to take it on, possibly get the goal and wrap it up, really, because as you've said, a minute later, bang. Gonzo was coming. Do you think it was coming, that goal?
It was, sorry, just back on what you said. I think perhaps, I know it's a different club, that's probably what Rashford did last season. He'd gone through and he came from nowhere, and then he would do that. He skinned the guy, and then he had the sort of confidence and presence of mind to actually, and the arrogance, if you like, to try and slot that home. So maybe you've got a point. He's missing a bit of that. Yeah, it was coming. It was coming. The commentator even said when they're bringing a fella on, this guy's got a good goal scoring record, and but you know what, the old Ginger Pele. He's got that in the bank, really. He's got a lot of credit in the bank, hasn't he? He got turned by his man, and it was he should have done better. But there you go. He did well against Chelsea, didn't they? So 6 1/2 dozen the other for a cliche for you.
Charlie, what are you with Alabek, the person that scores, starts for them? Because prior to him coming on, they had a lot of balls into the area, a lot of half chances, but there was no one in the middle. There was just no one there. This guy comes on, he stands in the middle of the box. He doesn't look like the most mobile striker. And there's a lot of times I felt like the ball was a couple of yards away and he just looked at it as if, say, I'm not getting that. But funny enough, that's the kind of striker West Ham need. I'm not saying that's his ability we need, but that type of striker is what we're looking for. But Charlie, what are you, if he was to start the second leg, would that create a danger, if you like?
He's clearly their main man, and the way the comments, I don't know any of their players, I'm not going to pretend to know him, but the way the commentary team was speaking about him was if he was their main goal scoring threat, he's their main man, he went to the Euros, all this other sort of stuff. And so for him to get the goal, I wasn't surprised. What would worry me was when we changed to 3 at the back, it almost seemed like it was directly to deal with them having an extra attacking threat on the pitch. And they just seemed at odds and ends and not know what to do. We were really let off when the ball got played through between Oxford and Collins. Collins got done for pace by this guy, and then he ended up shooting straight at Randolph. That was a let-off. That should have been a goal for them. And what would worry me is, given 90 minutes, he looks like he would score way more of those chances than he would miss them. But I still believe that when they do come to the Olympic Stadium, we have more than enough to keep them at bay and put them to sleep.
Well, let's talk about some individual performances. Gonzo, start with yourself. Let's talk about our two young defenders. Reece Burke started at left back, Reece Oxford started at centre back. How do you feel those two going tonight?
Fantastic. Really nice to see him. Really pleased to see him. I think I don't like the Europa Cup. You know, I think it's rubbish. It really is. But we need to stay in this competition if we're going to keep those guys, and it's a way to give them games. And it's huge for a player like Reece Oxford to get 90 minutes, and he's just learning all the time. And there was one particular part, and it was in the second half where he read a situation which nobody else did, and it just showed a reading of the game, which was nice to see. All that other stuff that comes with practice, you know, but that's a gift, and you've either got it or you haven't. That was nice to see. Burke, I was impressed, out of position on his weaker side. He impresses me every time I see him, actually, Reece Burke. I've got to say, you know, and for someone that is a centre back, it's not even like he's a right back who's playing on the left. Someone that's a centre back who really it's all about interceptions and heading and tackling. He's not got a bad bit of footwork on him, actually. I've got to say, I like him. I really like him. I think fair play. Not our solution at left back or any other, but you know what, bloody good player.
If we went out of the Europa League, Gonzo, would you worry about where these two players are going to get their game time from to keep them happy?
Yeah, that's why we need to stay in. That is absolutely why we need to stay in, because we will lose them otherwise. I'm sure of that, and probably one or two others besides. I won't be too bothered about losing, but I mean those two, they're the future to come. And lovely to see young Browne come on as well. And I don't know what's happened with Samuelson. It'd be nice if they were involved a bit, but he's getting a blend. It wasn't a great performance. We lacked stardust today. So the word you used in relation to something else in the week, stardust. We lacked stardust. We lacked a bit of inspiration. We lacked a good passer today to try and open things up. So we didn't get to see what Cleary was like or anything like that. So I think with that in mind, take that into consideration. I think he's blended it better. So we've got some experience. You've got a Bonner. You know, you've got Noble in there, and Antonio, of course, is now, and I think if you then bring in Samuelson or even Queener maybe at some point, and Browne, and just dip these guys in whilst starting a couple, I think it's good stuff. I mean, it was crap. It was crap. It was crap to watch. It was a crap performance, and it was a crap result. Let's be perfectly honest with you. But I think actually the bigger picture, it's not bad.
Well, he did make 8 changes. Charlie, I'm going to throw one of our new players at you, our winger. Gokhan Torre, what did you make of his performance? He's coming from quite a lot of criticism on social media. Some people on our forum at hammerschat.com during the game were voicing their concerns about him and his attitude specifically. What did you make of his performance?
I found it was better than Chelsea, but that's saying nothing. I think that he was very up and down. He showed a few flashes of what he's capable of. He turned the defender that was marking him 2 or 3 times and put in some decent balls into the box. And if we were better, then we probably would have at least got a header on target. The one Ed Valencia chance where he headed it over the bar was the one that sticks out in my mind most. I think the flashes I'm looking at and thinking, okay, this is promising. It wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a good performance from him. I think it was fine at best, but once he gets going, once he gets fitter, I am confident that he will be, maybe not to the level of Antonio, but he will have a slow start and then go on to prove that he is actually a good player and a good squad player that we have in our team now, as opposed to what he looks like now, which is a bit unfit, a bit slow. But yeah, so up and down today.
Before we move on to our striker debutant, Gonzo's shaking his head there about Charlie's comment. Gonzo, anything you would like to add or disagree with?
Yeah, I totally disagree. He's not going to get up to close to the level of Antonio at all. Yeah, I think the chairman, you've got to praise the chairman. Besiktas were desperate to get that guy on a permanent deal, and the chairman, he kept on, no, I'm going to take him on loan, What a wise decision that looks to be. I tell you what, he'll do a year here and we will not sign that boy. I'm sorry, he's lacking in some qualities. You could see he's got some sort of technique there. He's not like Valencia. He's got some technique there. He's got a twist and a turn in him. But I think Faguli will be the one, and I am just really glad that we have not signed him on a permanent transfer at all. I think they've done Bilic a favour and humoured Bilic. They say, all right, we'll bring your guy in, but good foresight not to sign him permanently. Don't look at him at all.
Well, the final word on him, all I'll say is alarm bells certainly ring when your manager wants him all the time. And we would have sent our scouts out to have a look at him. Tony Henry and his team would have went and they would have came back to the chairman and said, not convinced he's going to cut it. Alarm bells then ring when we're not too keen to go get a manager's number one target into the club. As for how he'll do, it could turn out good. We'll wait and see. But I'd certainly worry if he was to play in the Premier League against an experienced and good Premier League left back, because they would get a lot of, especially an attacking left back, they would get a lot of opportunities down that hand side, because I couldn't see him tracking back or anything particularly like that. Now let's move on to our strike partnership very quickly. Charlie, very quickly, were you happy with our Argentinian up front tonight?
Yeah, it's fine. He had nothing really to do, to be perfectly honest, but he seemed to have movement. There was a few times where he was dropping deep and getting involved in the play, which was something we needed someone. My biggest problem with our formation the last couple of weeks is there is no one just playing just behind the striker, linking up play, and we end up just being bulldozers down the wings, having nothing really, just a blunt attack force and it not really working. So I was really glad when Eder Valencia was dropping deep, it was pointless, but when he was dropping deep, we started linking up a bit nicer. And so, again, promising. We can't really say much. This is his first ever game in Europe, let alone for us. So, but decent, fine.
Gonzo, at the very start, you laughed when we mentioned Eder Valencia. You've obviously got something to say. I think me and Charlie know what you're going to say. I think our viewers know what you're going to say. But get it off your chest.
Well, it's not off my chest. I haven't said before. You say I laughed. You're lucky I didn't cry, to be honest with you. I can't take much more of seeing him in the team. He might be a lovely lad or whatever and blah blah blah. But I mean, it's just horrendous. It's absolutely horrific. The other day, somebody sent me a clip of, and it wasn't even like, it was the X Factor, and it was a kid who couldn't sing on the X Factor, and someone was laughing about it. It actually reminds me of somebody like that. It's uncomfortable watching. You're watching somebody, you know what I mean? Those initial auditions at the X Factor where the guy comes on and they're all sat at the front, or Britain's Got Talent or whatever, and you know, what you go tonight? I'm going to sing a Boyzone song, and they're terrible at singing. It's almost like that, you know. What's your name? My name's Enna. You know, what are you going to do today? I'm going to play football, and it's quite embarrassing to sort of watch somebody struggle. He needs out. He needs to go. Perhaps it's the Premier League. Perhaps he needs to go to China. Perhaps he needs to go back to Ecuador. He can't cut it. He can't be in the team anymore. He cannot be in the team anymore.
I know exactly what you're saying. Me and Charlie are like that, listening to you analyse players every time you're on the show. But last time, before the all-important question that we do every single show, I would like to just to brag a little bit. In the preview, I did say it would be 1-1. You know, I had money on that tonight, so I'm a little bit happy. Hope you took my advice. There you go. You made some money. Four competitive game into the season. I've won you some cash. Charlie, are you happy with 1-1?
No, I'm not. That match was there for the taking. First half, I thought we were a better team, even if it wasn't a great half. We should have stepped up and taken them. I get why he went 3 at the back to defend a bit more, but they were there for the taking, and I think if we had a little bit more adventure to them, we could have got another goal, maybe even 2.
Gonzo, are you happy with 1-1?
Yes, an away goal, so it's not really 1-1. They won't score at our place. We'll stuff them in the return leg. It wasn't entertaining, but we've come away. It's fine. No injuries. That's good.
That's the key thing for me. We came away with the very minimum, a score draw, which we've done. We've got no injuries. Certain players have got important minutes. Oxford, Burke, Torrey, Caleri, they've all had important minutes. Browne, they've all had game time for the club. We then move on to Bournemouth, which we will have our preview up at noon on Friday. Tomorrow we will have our preview up. Right, all important question. I think this one's quite easy. I'll be surprised if we don't all say the same person. Charlie, your man of match, please.
To be honest with you, I would give it to their goalkeeper because I thought he had a great first half. But I don't even. They were all much of the same to me, to be honest. So I'll say Antonio because I just enjoy seeing him not in defence anymore. But yeah.
Gonzo, your man of match, please.
I'm actually going to go. Don't think he was the best performer, but all in for reasons I mentioned earlier. Reece Burke will give a special mention to Andy Carroll, who looked a different class when he came on. He looks like he's getting fit. This could be a very good season for Andy Carroll. He looked fit. He looked like the best player on the pitch when he came on. But Reece Burke for overall, for all the reasons I said earlier.
It's Antonio for me. He looked like the one player that could create something a couple of times. It's just unfortunate for him. He had Enner Valencia ahead of him, who was actually a hindrance more than a help when we were going forward. A couple of times Antonio played lovely passes into him. He just wasted it. You just thought, there was only someone half decent. And I get what you're saying about Carroll, but all I'll say on that is thank God we have a manager who's prepared to sacrifice, well, not sacrifice, but leave him on the bench and just protect him a little bit. If that was Sam Allardyce, Carroll would have played 90 minutes tonight, and he would have played 90 minutes again on Sunday. He will eventually get injured, and he will sit there and you go, we're missing Andy Carroll a record. You know, at last we've got a manager who's prepared to give Andy Carroll almost like a detailed plan, if you like, around that one player to keep him fit and get the best out of him. So
listen, don't, Sam Allardyce, England manager, don't rule out the prospect of Sam Allardyce ruining Andy Carroll. He's perfectly forward to injure Andy Carroll this season, so don't worry about that.
Well, we'll soon find out. While you're here, make sure you subscribe to our channel at youtube.com/Hammers Chat. If you want to have your say on the game, you can do in the comments below or on our forum at hammerschat.com. Like I said, our preview will be up on Friday during the day. Let us know what your predictions is as well. We've only got until Sunday, not long till West Ham are back in action. But it's been 1-1 in Romania. That's been Charlie, that's been Gonzo, I've been Gio. We've been Hammers Chat. Thank you very much for watching.